this is secure digital, secure infrastructure, right people, good ideas. But then within a few months or within a year, they realized that this is not going to work out really. Skype was the first really, good application to enable talking via computers. It's not that the big beats the small, it's the fast beats the slow. We exited the company, we sold the company for a couple of billion, just a few years after the launch. That shift, when you do it yourself or the courier does it, that's the inefficient part. That can be automated. There is a lot of data that our machine learning, AI, is learning from.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Sam Knowles. And joining us today on Data Malarkey is Ahti Heinla, a serial entrepreneur, coder and tech pioneer who lives and works in Tallinn, Estonia. For the past dozen years, Ahti has served as the co-founder, CEO and CTO of Starship Technologies, the world's leading and most progressive company in autonomous delivery vehicles. Chances are, if you've had groceries delivered by a robot, from San Francisco to Helsinki, Hamburg to Milton Keynes, that last-mile autonomous vehicle was designed, built and directed by Ahti and his team at Starship. Born in the early 1970s, when Estonia was part of the Soviet Empire, Ahti has been programming and writing code since he was 10. This is perhaps unsurprising, as his mother was a programmer, and indeed she taught him how to code when he was still in elementary school. He has a lifelong passion for solving problems with software. Since gaining independence in 1991, Estonia has been at the forefront of technological innovation, and today the country is one of the world's most digitally advanced societies. Nearly all government services are available online, and secure digital IDs enable citizens to sign documents, access services, and even vote online. From X-Road to e-residency, Estonia truly walks the walk that other nations can only talk or indeed dream about. The country also boasts the highest number of tech startups per capita in Europe, from wise to bold, fostered by its digital infrastructure. One of its best-known tech disruptors is Skype, of which Ahti just happened to be the chief technical architect. We will come back to that for sure. It's great to have you with us, Ahti. Welcome to Data Malarkey.
Thank you, Sam. I'm honored to be here and looking to make it interesting for everybody.
Thank you so much. Now, listen, first off, can you tell me if that's a good narrative of how you got to where you are today? Is there anything I've missed out or got wrong? This is your chance to put the record straight.
That is actually the very accurate summary of how things happened. Nothing to correct or course correct there. That's exactly how things have been.
Very good. Now, listen, before we get down and dirty with data, I want to start with a question that's designed to get to the heart of what makes you, you. And it doesn't necessarily ask you to tell us about the day job. So could you tell me, Ahti, how do you spend your time?
I spend my time talking to people all the time. Which is a little bit unfortunate because I am actually an introverted person, and I get my kick out of making machines do what is needed. But as a CEO, to some extent, my job is making people do what is needed. So it's a combination of those two things. Making machines do what is needed is what my mother taught me when I was 10 years old. But building teams, building companies is something that I learned later.
Very good. Now, listen, we will come to both of those companies. But can you tell us a little bit about your early life, growing up in Estonia, son of a programmer in Soviet-era Estonia, and maybe kind of how different that is from today?
I was a child back then. That's the biggest difference. I had a happy childhood. My parents were really good. My family was really good. There are a lot of issues in the world, especially right now. Looking back to my childhood and my family, I think I got the lucky thing that I had a happy childhood. Obviously, I grew up in Soviet Union, so. Life there was definitely different. It's hard to, I think, most of the listeners here will not have had experienced the Soviet Empire from the inside. I think that experience, has made me richer in terms of an experience. It's a society that worked quite differently from from what the democratic world is like, and what the free market economy is like. But particularly as a child, that doesn't mean that you have like a terrible childhood. It actually doesn't. As a child, you do the normal child stuff, and Estonia regained independence from Soviet Union kind of exactly when I turned 19. So I am like in Estonia. There is this expression that there is like a winner's generation, and winners' generation are generally considered the people who, at the time of regaining independence, were about like 25 or so. So the people who were, or maybe 27, people who have graduated from universities, they kind of have their initial initial professional experience, and then the independence, then they kind of can fully apply. And these are the people who like grab the opportunities, in the 90s. So I'm a little younger than this, winners generation. These winners generation, this used to be, and ended up being like pretty much all of the people who like owned the biggest companies in Estonia. They ended up being, these winners generation people. And I'm a little bit, younger, than that. I spent my 90s, or the years, the 90 years, not when I was 90 years old, which hasn't happened yet, building computer games. And that was very much fun. It was very entrepreneurial as well, because computer games is it's a hit-based business. It's called like hit-based business. But, most of the computer games don't do really well. Most of the attempts don't do really well. But then when you hit it big, I mean, you're a billionaire.
Very good. Now, listen, I've given the outside. You've given us some hints on the insider's view. I've given the outsider's view of why Estonia is such a powerful force in using software and technology to solve society's problems. Could you give us a little bit more from the inside about why it's such sort of melting pot of success for tech to solve society's problems?
I think that's exactly because of this winner generation where like 27. So people in the 1990s who were in charge in Estonia, who were like prime ministers and leaders of companies, they were like 30. We had the youngest prime minister in Europe. I think he was like 34 or something like that. And he put in a lot of things in the government, which still stands today. Like for example, this digital ID system, which really is very prevalent. Like nobody's using like DocuSign in Estonia. And by DocuSign, I mean effectively like drawing your signature, just saying that I signed this. It's secure digital signatures, like and you vote like that. Not with like the paper ballot. I mean, you can do paper as well, but about half of the people are voting online, and this is secure digital, secure infrastructure, and now most of the startups are of course driven by people who were not 27 or 30 in the 90s. That is the next generation after that. So one of the biggest companies in Estonia now is Bolt, ride-hailing and delivery company, right? And that was founded by Markus Willig, who was I think 17 at the time or something like that. He was in high school, and he's of course the next generation.
Really, really, really fascinating. It feels like there's a kind of a flywheel effect, that you have that winners generation that sets the groundwork for what comes afterwards. Could we turn to Skype? I'd love if you wouldn't mind if you could describe the journey that you and your co-founders took. And candidly, it's a journey that has completely revolutionized how the world communicates these days, and also kind of how much we pay to do so. If you tell us a little bit about your Skype journey.
Right. I've been part of the beginnings of many different startups. If I count all of the startups attempts that where I've been on the founding team or around the table when they were founded, or I have been the founder, it's about maybe 10 of these. And they all start very similarly. They all start the same. It's like a couple of people, maybe a whiteboard and some ideas. And and it's like very, 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 very early compared to the success that comes later. Sometimes the success comes later in a minority of the times. Like most of these attempts, yes, there's this whiteboard. There's exactly the same conversations. Bright people, good ideas, but then within a few months or within a year, they realize that this is not going to work out really. And I've done several of these, myself, and then there are a couple who have worked out, like for example Skype, and with the Skype, I was part of the first discussions, that what are we going to do? Is this thing really useful? We had lots of objections in the beginning, like for example, imagine, let's rewind time back 25 years, that, okay, we're starting a startup, with make people talk to each other using a computer. But the phones already exist. You're solving a problem that doesn't exist. People can just pick up the phone and call. What's the problem you're solving, really? then another thing was that back then, most of the computers were actually desktop computers, not laptop computers. Laptop and notebooks, I think tablets did not exist, I think, but smartphones did not exist. But computers existed, but these were desktop computers. The problem with desktop computers was that desktop computers usually did not have microphones built in. So in order to actually speak with somebody, you would need to go out and buy like a headset or something like that. And that wasn't like super common because Skype was the first really, good application to enable talking via computers to each other. So people didn't really have these headsets or microphones at hand. But the product that we did was so good, it was so viral. People went out and bought these microphones, and in like a year or so, like next year or 2 years from the founding of Skype, actually was the watershed year where most of the computers sold were laptops, not desktops. Laptops had microphones built in. So you could use this immediately without buying any extra product or hardware. So the tide turned. The beginning looked exactly like any other startup. Bright people around the table, some good ideas, some hardship, and some obstacles as well. But we thought, okay, we can do it. How hard can it be? And I must say, it wasn't very hard to build the first version of the application, to put it out there. We got first 10,000 people using it on the first day, on the launch day, which back then was a huge number. Nowadays, obviously, social media and everything's developed much more. Nowadays, 10,000 on the first launch day, that's not that a big of number. There have been products that have gotten like a million on the first day. But back then, I think 10,000 was a big thing. And it just snowballed from there.
Now, it's fascinating to hear from the inside, and I love you. I love your. Listen, you've lived it, but I hadn't really appreciated that point about no microphones, desktops versus laptops. Fantastic. The challenges that you face with Skype, you say it was easy. You're a very proficient coder, more than that. But the challenges that you face with Skype, were they technical? Were they to do with data, or were they more about subverting tradition? There's this tradition of telecoms companies making money from carrying voice signals over wires. Where was the biggest what was the biggest difficulty you faced? Was it a combination of all three, or something totally different?
I think a lot of people in the founding team had actually telecom background, so we were not afraid of the telecom. In fact, I think one of our great assets was that we were not afraid. There were, I think around us, there were quite a few people who thought that, oh, this is like too daunting thing to take over. This is too daunting thing, change the way how people communicate. This is really big. It's like, are you going to make it, or are you going to make it? But in the founding team, we didn't really have fear. We did not. Since a lot of us, had actually been at telecom, working in telecom, we did not have any sort of, unjustified, feelings that okay, these guys cannot be beaten. And And in the end, like we just developed so fast. There was this saying, our CEO, repeatedly, said, it's not that the big eats the small, it's the fast eats the slow. And that's how it happened. We were developing very fast. We had a network effect. Effectively, the nice thing about Skype as a product was that you couldn't use it alone. When you installed this app, you couldn't use it alone. The first thing you had to do was to find somebody else and tell somebody else that, hey, I found this app, let's try it, right? So that was the reason why it spread like this. It spread really well, and we made a big dent in the telecoms market before the telecoms really had any time to react. And in the end, the competition came not really from telecoms. Competition came from other apps, because indeed it was easy to get started on this. It was easy to build the first version of the app and so forth. Obviously, the challenges were later building the whole organization, and we're actually growing really fast, and that brings cultural problems. That brings things like like we had like we were a distributed company. We had multiple different offices in multiple different countries. They started diverging a little bit in how they think and what kind of people got hired in one, and what kind of culture got created in another. I think these were the challenges we had. But in the end, we had a great ride. We exited the company. We sold the company for a couple of billion, just a few years after the launch. So again, nowadays these things happen more often. Back then, it was really pretty unique.
Very good. I remember when I had exactly the same feeling of excitement as I mean, I wasn't a very early adopter at all, but I had exactly the same feeling of excitement when I discovered Skype. But I think when I discovered Skype in the UK, and I can't date it precisely, but at the time one had to pay for a block of time, kind of almost like you were sort of pre-billing on a phone service. But that soon disappeared. But I remember that sense of excitement. But exactly as you say, you've got to find someone else, and it reminded me. I've just had this kind of flashback. It reminded me of when I discovered SMS. When I mean, I'm that old. I haven't grown up. I didn't grow up texting people, but it was that. But it was so much more because you could see these people as well as hear them. Just fantastic. Now, listen, I want to turn to Starship Technologies that I know has been very much in your life the past dozen years or so. To begin with, could you describe the last mile problem it is that you're solving with your autonomous robots?
We are effectively automating transport in the world. So we took on telecom, solved communication, made that free, and made that very easy. Now we're doing the same with the moving of stuff around the world. And the moving of stuff around the world, logistics, you could think of actually, you could split into two. It's one of these bulk logistics, when there is a whole of packages and things, loaded on a plane or a ship or van, and they're transported all in bulk. So that's actually relatively, efficient. But then comes the last mile transport. All of us need, food or groceries. We live somewhere. Our food generally doesn't grow in our house or apartment. Our food comes from using a logistics chain. The last part of that is this last mile transport. Either we go to a grocery store and we grab something and we walk or ride, back home, or we go to like a restaurant or something to eat, or we have a courier transporting these things to us, right? So, and that courier, that is the inefficient part in this transport. That trip every day or every week, to a shop, restaurant, that trip, whether you do it yourself or the courier does it, that's the inefficient part. That can be automated. So 1,000 years ago, it used to be the case that, when you needed water, you took a bucket and you went to the stream, right? Nowadays, that doesn't happen. You go to the bathroom and you turn the tap and the water comes to you automatically. And also back then, 1,000 years ago, look, the rich people didn't take the bucket and went to the street. They had servants. They just told the servant, right? So nowadays, when you need a milk or you need a burger, you either take a bucket and go to the stream, or you have a servant that's called courier nowadays that does it for you. But you don't turn the tap and have the burger or the milk come to you, and that's what we are creating. We are much more advanced in this than most people think. Most people in the world have never experienced delivery using a robot, but we have deployed in hundreds of locations, like tens of cities in Europe. And in these places, it is completely commonplace. Completely commonplace. There is a whole country in Europe, Finland, where we are probably about 10% of the last mile delivery market, or 10% of the same day deliveries, be it food or be it groceries, is done by our robots. Like approximately 10%, I think. So the thing is that if you live in Finland, you know that this is completely commonplace, and this is completely happening right now. Delivery has been automated. It's just a matter of time before, instead of 10%, it's going to be 50% and more. But if you don't live in these places where we have deployed, you still tend to think that, oh, this is what happened in 20 years.
Well, hello there. It's your host, Sam here. Now, I won't keep you for long. If you've been inspired by what you've been listening to today, and you'd like to find out what type of data storyteller you are, why not go to our data storytelling scorecard? Just follow the link to data-storytelling.scoreapp.com. That's score app with 2 P's. Answer 12 simple questions, and you'll instantly be served with a scorecard that tells you exactly what type of data storyteller you are. Now, back to the action and our brilliant guest.
Now, you mentioned Finland. I visited Finland several times. I have a brother. He's been married for 40 plus years to a Finnish woman. He lived in Finland for in the 80s and 90s, and I visited him both in summer and in winter. I live in the south of England. We don't really get snow. It doesn't really get very cold. I mean, it's quite cold today, but it's not really. You've got real extremes to deal with. I mean, I remember being so impressed when I stayed with him in the winter that he had he himself had put a blower fire into the footwell of his car that he could switch on when he got up, so that it would defrost it, because the car would otherwise take too long. You've got real extremes. The reason I give you that anecdote, many brilliant tech ideas, including Skype, are intangible. They don't have to navigate the real physical world. You've got problems of traffic, weather, terrain, vandalism. There's an old joke told about the Daleks, the evil enemies of Doctor Who, the long-running BBC series. That Daleks are great until they have to go through a ploughed field. They can't, or if you run away from Daleks and go upstairs, they can never get you until they're made to fly. Tell us about some of the real world challenges that you've had to overcome amazing, get to 10% in Finland already, and the same is coming elsewhere. Tell us about those real world challenges.
Right. With deliveries and also with robotics, the physical issues are very important, right? Even if, for example, I would not build a robotic delivery company, even if I build a company that is using people to do deliveries, the physical space and what happens there is very important. The weather, the all sorts of issues that happen, all these things are important. And yes, it is not like a fully digital business. It's not like Skype, where you just have this app and then it just takes off as a wildfire. But to compensate for this, there are not that many competitors either. We are by far the number one company in this space. We have close to 3,000 robots in operation right now in hundreds of locations. And the competitors are just far behind us. None of the competitors are even close to having like 10% market share in a country, or they're effectively pilot scale. or much smaller scale. We are the only ones that are just opening up city after city after city, and it has taken years to build this. It's a very, very hard thing to do. It's a deep tech challenge. We were the first company ever to drive robots in public spaces without human oversight. We started doing that in 2017, where the cars, the self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles, they were still driving with the safe at the driver. Now they've gotten rid of that. Now they drive without that mostly. But back then they were using these safe at the drivers, and they were the first company to actually start driving robots without human oversight. We also went through a phase where for years we did deliveries with a person walking with a robot. Like imagine that's pilot, right? That's completely pilot. That's completely test. Then we optimized it enough that it became safe, so that we could try without that, and started working on efficiency. And now it is efficient. It's more efficient than using human courier. And we are just signing up customer after customer and going from city to city.
What a fantastic story. I mean, I know on your website it talks about by the end of last year, you'd made almost 10 million deliveries, 20 million kilometers, 270 locations. You got Series C $50 billion funding last year. I mean, you're clearly well ahead of the competition, and it looks like set for domination. We've talked a little bit. I mean, this is you're demonstrating to us in your stories, both of Skype and Starship, of making incredibly smart use of data. But can you tell me, are there any specific data challenges that you've had to face in your 12-year journey with Starship?
I would say my biggest data challenge is that there are a lot of people in the world that are not using data or are not looking at data. I am doing it very much. It's one of our company values is that data guides the way, and we obviously have a lot of data because these 10 million deliveries, and on every delivery there's so many things that happen, or so many moments which are all recorded in a huge database, and there is a lot of data that our machine learning AI is learning from, and our engineers are learning from, and we are drawing conclusions from that data. But that's not the way that I think a lot of the world is working. I would just wish that more of the world become factual and data based.
It's the primary. I mean, apart from the fact that I get to talk to fantastic guests who've done amazing things like you, it's my primary motivation for this podcast that making smarter use of data in any type of organization can enable not just it to optimize, but to do truly extraordinary things. I'm really interested in. There's some debate going on at the moment about what robots should look like. Indeed, if they should have cartoon or human faces. Indeed, I think at a recent CES there were sort of dog-like robots with Zuckerberg and Musk faces and limbs on. Tell us about the design choices that you made for your robots, because your robots are sort of they're kind of rectangular boxes on wheels. But tell us about your design choices and also your views about what you think robots should look like.
Yeah, so we made a clear choice to not look too much like a person. So our robots do not really have like a human-like face or human-like appearance. Definitely not. It does have some emotional human-like characters. The lights do look a little bit like eyes, and there is a little bit like a smile in front of the robot if you look at the right way. So people really love our robots. Our design has been a huge win. We are, our robots are actually in multiple design museums around the world, and as a design object. We chose a sort of middle road to be friendly, but not like a human. Our robots do not attempt to look like a human. But on the other hand, we also made a clear choice to not look like industrial machine. Need to be friendly, neutral, neutral but friendly, something that people want to interact with. And in terms of interaction, the thing is, customers who get deliveries delivered to them, they don't really actually want to interact with the courier all that much. People say that they like human contact. They like human contact with their friends, not so much with the courier. And the experience of receiving something with a robot, I think most people actually prefer that. The robot is never critical of you. You're never kind of ashamed of anything. You can go to the door, wearing whatever you want. The robot is polite to you, says, thank you for your delivery, but it's this sort of neutral experience where you are completely in control.
That's fascinating. I love that. I love that middle way approach. If anything, watching your robots kind of move online. I've never met one in person, but I'm looking forward to it. Reminded me a little tiny bit of Wall-E's girlfriend in the Pixar movie Eve. Although she has she has a head and a body as well as a face. But you're right. The eyes and the smile. And I completely get what you say about couriers, because in the age of kind of last mile delivery, which is being kind of patched together in terms of packaging and parcels, quite often the nature of the contracts that the couriers are working on, they're having to do hundreds of deliveries a day. They've got no time for you. They'll knock on the door. They won't even wait for the package to be taken in. If they're on a motorbike, they probably won't take their helmet off so you can't see their face. They might complain about the traffic or the parking and. And I guess you're just never getting that with one of yours. They're just doing what they do because that's what they do. You've mentioned a couple of times about startups in general, about Skype, and also a little bit about Starship. The human challenges that you face. You love telling machines what to do, but you have to work out how to get humans to do things for you. Your website talks a lot about the importance of cross-functionality, building global teams that blend an expertise in robotics, AI, and logistics to change the world one delivery at a time. Can you tell us how you manage to cut across the silos in your business in Starship and successfully integrate multiple data sources to achieve your goal? I mean, I'm not asking you to be too technical or to give away your secret sauce, but tell us about that part of your business.
I think the mission of our company is very inspirational to people. That's why the people who work at Starship work at Starship. That's this common mission, common goal, the transformative nature of what we do creates the motivation of our employees to do what they are doing. And we are also breaking new ground all the time. We go to new cities, we do new, launch operations with new partners and so forth. Like for example, in the UK, we had not done food delivery before, but in December we launched together with UberEats in Leeds doing exactly food delivery, which is a little bit different than the grocery delivery that we have been doing in UK before. There's a lot of things to invent all the time. There's a lot of things to change all the time, to change for the better, to make sure that things work flawlessly. And we have built a culture where teams around the world in many different places, we are a relatively distributed company. They collaborate with each other and they are united in the common mission and the goal that we have.
Very good, very strong. Now, listen, UberEats, that partnership in Leeds. You're talking about kind of hot restaurant food to be delivered that would ordinarily have been delivered by a van or a bike.
Yes.
Presumably, I mean, I'm thinking about particularly, the British love of of Indian food, in particular of Asian food, that can be very pungent and aromatic. And so presumably, if one of your robots is delivering an Indian meal and then it's delivering a pizza and then it's delivering some Thai food, there has to be a mechanism or a means of sort of not necessarily cleaning, but refreshing the inside, because I don't want my pizza smelling of my neighbour's curry.
Well, there is cleaning. Actually, we do clean the robots very regularly, right? But if you think of it, this is actually the same with the couriers. They also have delivery bags, right? Obviously, they need to clean this, right? Absolutely. And in our newest models, we actually have ventilation inside the robots as well. These kind of things are actually good examples of all of the things that we have had to solve during this. Like from these early days where there was, a few people on a whiteboard, just thinking that, hey, we're going to automate delivery, to the point where right now, it's like 10 million deliveries and thousands of robots, and we are rolling this out and, scaling and so forth. It's a very long journey of solving exactly these types of things that, maybe at first we didn't even think of.
And that, I mean, listen, you're 12 years and many leagues ahead. But I was just thinking, one of the smell, but also, of course, you need to keep food warm. And you need to keep food warm, but you don't need to keep groceries or books or anything else warm. So I can see it working in the real world. I mean, it's a whole other set of challenges, but clearly sets of challenges that you love trying to solve.
Yes, and it's also it's an attractive business. It's a very large business opportunity. Think of all of the deliveries that are being done in the world. We are the only company in the world that is really at the point where when we're having effectively sales discussions with our customers, they're not comparing us to the competitors, for example, because competitors are far behind us. They haven't solved all of these things, and it is a very hard thing, what we do, but the payoff is also huge.
Now, our podcast, Data Malarkey, has global reach, and I'm speaking to you from England, and I know that you're active here, and you've done pioneering work in Milton Keynes and Leeds and elsewhere. As I understand it, there are some pretty specific challenges you face here in terms of local government regulation. Could you touch on that a little?
Right. We work with regulators everywhere we go. We want to make sure that the robots, in terms of traffic laws, are actually legal to drive in wherever we operate. And in the UK, the system works in a way that the local councils in the cities, they give us permissions to operate, and that's fine. But why is it, for example, that I said in Finland, it's already 10% of the deliveries of last mile deliveries are done, same day deliveries are done with a robot? It's because in Finland there is a nationwide regulation for it. There's nationwide rules, set by the government that say effectively how big the robot can be, how fast it can drive, and so forth, sets these rules. And then if these rules are met, then anyone can operate commercially all across the country. So we would very much like to do the same in the UK in the same scale. And the UK regulation is a bit behind on this. We're still scaling, right? We're still going, city after city. It works. It's just that it could work on a bigger scale quicker in UK.
Got it. Completely got it. Well, yeah. Never let it be said that there isn't a lot of regulation and red tape in the UK. But no, I mean, I guess once you've got it up and running in many locations, then the others will just fall like dominoes. Or indeed there'll be pressure for regulation to be changed at a national level rather than it to be mandated at a local level.
Yes, and right now, a number of countries in Europe, even the countries that have the image of being a lot more bureaucratic or rigid than the UK is, are actually putting in this sort of national regulation around robots on the sidewalk, on the pavement, before the UK gets there.
How interesting! How interesting! Be really interesting to watch the progress on that. Could you tell us a little bit, just changing gear a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit about how you've applied your software coding and problem-solving skills to tackle environmental challenges in Estonia and drive civic engagement and foster better governance? I've read about a couple. One is the Let's Do It campaign to clean up illegal waste, and the other one is the creation of Citizen OS. Could you talk about that? Because I mean, I'm surprised you have the time to do it running Starship, but tell us about those.
These are the things that I'm not doing at the same time as Starship. These are it's more serial. I've been lucky to be part of several different initiatives that have moved the needle one way or another in various different spaces, and I have. I'm concerned about the environment. I'm concerned about many things happening in the world, but also the environment. And the Let's Do It campaign was a campaign, or well, still is a campaign to it's a volunteer effort to campaign to clean rubbish, and clean rubbish not from the cities but from the countryside, and it's maybe less of an issue in UK, but Estonia is a sparsely populated country. There are a lot of forest in Estonia. That forest is not like national park or something like that. It's just public forest, and there's not so many people, in the countryside. But particularly from the Soviet times, there was sometimes there's some trash in the forest and beaches and so forth and so forth. And we organized a campaign to have 3% of the population of Estonia to come out one day, one Saturday, in a huge cleanup campaign. And 3% of the population, I mean, you can maybe imagine what does that mean in terms of the public visibility of it. Like we were like all over the TV all the time. We got free airtime, free advertising effectively because like all of the society was behind this. President was cleaning. It was a very, 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 very big thing. This has been repeated in many different countries. Portugal and Slovenia did it even more than 3% of population. I think they had 8% of population in one day come out like one single day. It's a bit of like festival. It's like a big cleaning festival. So with this organization that has been started in Estonia but exported this around the world, and then also Citizen OS, which is looking at alternative ways how to run democratic systems in the way where you don't necessarily have elections every couple of years, and you don't elect people whose main profession is to look good on TV, but make decisions in a democratic way, but in a better way. So this is a digital decision making or collaboration platform.
Fantastic. You mentioned right at the beginning that, and I agreed with you kind of wholeheartedly, that actually there aren't enough people in the world who make data-driven decisions and allow the information that surrounds us to guide our decisions. I'm interested, either if that you're going to give me the same answer or if there's another. I'm interested in the worst misuse of data that you've ever witnessed during your career.
Unfortunately, I think during the last few years, the world has transformed, I would say, away from data, away from facts. It's post-truth, as people say. There's so much lying in the world, and people get away with lying. Makes me sad. In around me and in our company, we are building a culture and maintaining a culture where facts rule, data rules. I think the ways to actually use data, visualize data, analyze data have become really good and accessible to lots of people. But there are quite a few people and quite a few circumstances in the world, in social media and so forth, where the truth just doesn't seem to matter.
I'm with you 100%, and I think I'm not pointing fingers at any particular social media platform, but I think if we'd have known, if we and many people had realised that if the social media platform was free, then we were the product to whom adverts were going to be served, and more, but not only adverts, but more and more extreme content, we might have thought twice about it, or we might have put some regulation in the first place. Thank you very much for that. And finally, Ahti, where can our viewers and our listeners find out more about you and your work and Starship Technologies online and in social media?
It's our website, starship.xyz, and obviously we have the social media accounts as well, and you will be hearing news about our lovely robots coming to your doorstep and to your city or town where you're living.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Ahti. If only there were more people with your approach to solving data and technology challenges, there'd be rather less malarkey in the world of problem-solving software and rather more data-driven common sense. Ahti Heinla, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks so much for listening to Data Malarkey, the podcast about using data smarter. If you've enjoyed this latest episode and liked what you've heard, why not subscribe and leave a review on the podcast platform where you found us? Do share Data Malarkey with your friends, colleagues, and collaborators.